Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the video for Tower Fantasy. My name is Ventus, and what's good? Alright, guys, in this Tower Fantasy video, guys, I'm going to show you how to build a frost tank in Tower of Fantasy. Now, really quickly, before I get into that, if you are new here, do me a favor, please subscribe to the channel with all notifications on so you don't miss a notification of an upload or a live stream. And then after this video is over, head on over to my channel and check out my playlist for Tower of Fantasy. I'd really appreciate that. And if you're like me and you like Tower of Fantasy, why not give the video your like? Let's try to get this video to 30 likes. I would really appreciate it as well. And then follow me on my socials. I am VSGN on TikTok, or VSGN social on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. I follow people back on Twitter, and I really appreciate your support over on TikTok. That's VSGN social. Links will be in the description. Alright, so let's get right into this. Alright, so to make a frost tank in Tower Fantasy, you're going to need 2 frost fortitude resonant weapons, and we only have 2, so that's going to be the Saki and Heartstream, and then Merill with Rosy Edge. These are 2 really good weapons, and these 2 together pretty much make you unkillable if you play your cards right. And then you're going to need a 3rd weapon. It's optional. You can choose to use another fortitude resonance weapon like Mimi or maybe even Huma, but I choose to use a full-on frost build so I can get some support there with frost resonance and healing. I use Coco Ritter. Coco Ritter is a really good healer, probably one of the best healing weapons of the game, because that's all the weapon does is heal. I got mine at level 120 with no advancement, so that lets you know that the weapon is pretty good. So if you have like at least one weapon that allows you to heal yourself back, and you don't have to really like super rely on your healers, you are doing good. You are going to be almost pretty much unkillable, especially if you use Saki in the right way. Saki is such a good tank weapon. Merill, not so much. I really say that Merill is probably not a better tank weapon than Saki, because Saki has a lot of mechanics, but Merill just looks cool. You have a lot of shatter with Merill, and you can just like really fight. Merill is more like a fighting tank weapon, and Saki is more like it's just a better weapon. Alright, so if you have both of these weapons, put those on, and then you're going to put yourself in Fortitude Resonance. Fortitude Resonance basically says, equip at least 2 defense-type weapons to activate, increase damage reduction by 25%, shatter by 60%, and aggro by 800%, and you need a lot of aggro when you are a tank so you can keep the attention of bosses that you're fighting, and then you can applying your current weapon's elemental weak point to the target. So that is so good. You get to apply, like, frost weakness to whatever you're fighting, so that's super good. In team play, gain an additional 20% damage reduction. Now, damage reduction is going to make all the difference when you are fighting as a tank, because you take a lot of damage, and the ability to like absorb damage is great. And that's why Saki is so good too, because she absorbs damage. Let's take a look at her traits. Alright, so Saki's first awakening trait says when HP is lower than 70%, increase all resistance by 40%. So that's super good. And then her second awakening, Saki Fuwa Guardian Sword or Guarding Sword, when HP is lower than 70%, increase all resistance by 40% with an extra 60% increased frost resistance, which is super good. In the state of Silent Flow, after the Sword Shadow releases Surge and blocks an attack, the teammate with the lowest HP percentage will get 3 block abilities, not including yourself, lasting for 10 seconds. The maximum blocking damage does not exceed 15% of the teammate's max HP, and that's super good for protecting your team. Alright, so when using Saki, there are a few relevant things to keep in mind while using her. So I have my Saki at A1, and the A1 reads, when Frost Resonance is activated, all weapon skill cooldowns are cleared every 5 times weapon skills are used, and the damage of flow and counterattack is increased by 1 time for the next 25 seconds. Her 3-star Excited Flow increased the damage of Sword Shadow Surge to 350% of Frost attacks. Silent Flow, the cooldown of Sword Shadow Surge becomes 5 seconds. 5-star Freeze Time and trigger Fantasia upon Surge hitting the target. Share cooldown with the Fantasia triggered by dodging. In her 6-star, upon hitting a target with Surge, increase frost damage by 11% for 15 seconds. Upon triggering Block with the Sword Shadow, reduce the frost damage dealt by nearby targets by 25% for 12 seconds. Alright, so I have mine at A1, and I think A1 is probably going to be all that you need, because that is actually really good. Now, as far as skills, there are a couple things to keep in mind, and it's going to be this. The Silent Flow Barrier. You tap and hold the attack button. In Silent Flow mode, hold normal attack immediately or while launch normal attack to trigger the skill. Hold the attack button to keep the anticipation. Release the button to deal 127.3% of attack plus 482 damage. When hit during the attacking period, blocks 20% of your max HP. So basically, when you're tanking and you know you're about to get hit, what I like to do is I'll throw a couple of attacks out there, and then I'll hold the attack button down so she enters that state and she's ready to block the damage, and you'll see that you block it because it will say absorb. And then she has Silent Flow Concentrated Stream. Okay, Cast the Silent Flow skills to begin charging for up to 3 seconds, continuously taunting nearby targets and absorbing damage up to 60% of max HP. At the end of the charge, deal frost damage equal to 408% of frost attack, plus 50% of absorbed damage to targets, and 20% of the unconsumed value is converted to HP recovery, cooldown 30 seconds. And you do this just by tapping the skill button. Okay, so enter Silent Flow when Fortitude Resonance is activated, and then when Fortitude Resonance is not activated, you're going to enter the Excited Flow. Now, what we're gonna take a look at is the Silent Flow, because that's what we're doing with Fortitude Resonance activated. It says, while in Silent Flow, after Sword Shadow releases Surge, the Wanderer obtains 3 blocks for 10 seconds. The maximum block capacity cannot exceed 15% of the max HP. Each successful block deals counterattack damage equal to 225% of frost attack to the target, and the Shatter of Surge increases by 100% with an added taunt effect. And you do this by tapping and holding the skill button. So the way that I like to look at it is like this. Whenever you hold the regular attack button, you get no HP back, alright? And you just block attacks, alright? And then when you hold the skill button, I'll take some damage and you'll see me get some HP back. Okay, I've lost some HP, so I'll wait for these guys to come over here to attack me. I'm just going to hold the regular skill button down, and then I'll let it go, and I got a little bit of health back. You see that? So when I hold the regular attack button, just going to be no health back. You know, it's just absorbing damage or whatever like that, and you deal damage, hold that attack button, and you got to wait for that skill to come back. So I'm going to do that, and let's see here. I'm down super low on health right now. I'm not going to use anything to heal myself with. I'm just going to use Saki at this point. So let me switch back to Saki. We've got 5 seconds cooldown there, and I'll show you exactly how much healing you can get back here. So skill is already cooled down, so I'm just going to hold down that button right there. I'm holding down the skill button and release it, and I got 98,000 points of healing back. So that is definitely something that's going to be super helpful whenever you are tanking, especially when you have a stuff to help you get your health back, like the Alternate Destiny. That's going to help you get stuff back. You got a heal weapon. Coco Ritter's going to help you get healing back. Coco Ritter's skill. And then I have my Kuant shield there as well, so that's going to help me get some health back as well. So I'm going to go back into Saki the Silent Flow, and let's see here. I've got 2 seconds left on the cooldown, so I'm just going to hold the button down, and 1, 2, 3, let it go, and I got a big chunk of healing back. Alright, so now let's talk about Merill and why she is actually a really good ice tank character. Okay, so I have my Merill activated all the way to 2 stars. The first star says, increase shatter by 15% and restore 10% of HP after shattering the target shield, so that's good. You got some healing back there. The second star, increase the current weapon's base growth by HP growth by 60%. The third star, upon switching to the weapon, gain an ice shield equal to 10% of max HP, cooldown 20 seconds. The ice shield lasts up to 10 seconds. So that is super good. I'm a person who loves having shields on my character, so shields are super good. That's why I love this weapon. The fifth star, increased damage and shatter by 50% while the shield is active. So when you switch to her, you're going to get extra damage, which is so great. And then the 6th star says, upon switching to the weapon, gain an ice shield equal to 20% of max HP and immunity to being controlled when the shield is active. Cooldown 20 seconds. The ice shield lasts up to 10 seconds. So getting her awakening is actually really good for tanking. Okay, so when it comes to Merill's skills, she's got a bunch of useful skills that are really good for tanking, and the first one among those is Whirlwind. It says, while standing still or moving, tap and hold normal attack to trigger Whirlwind, dealing damage equal to 132.8% of attack plus 587 every 0.5 seconds to the target. Grant hit stun immunity while in use. So I use this to not be hit stunned. You can do this. You basically have super armor while you're just holding the button and doing the spin to win. You'll hear me say that a lot. Spin to win. And then she has this skill called Blizzard, which also gives you hit stun. It says, swing the great sword to launch sword auras forward, each dealing damage equal to 155.9% of attack plus 689, and dealing increasing damage of 5% with each hit. Immune to control effects while active. So you feel like you're about to get hit with something, you switch to her, you press triangle, and you will start swinging these sword auras around, and you just won't get, like, affected by anything. You'll still take damage, though, but you won't be able to, like, get moved or anything. You're basically unmovable. And then her discharge is super good. You can use this on bosses that are just really with the moves. They move around so much. You can just stop them from moving using the Frost Barrier. When weapon charge is full, if Fantasia is triggered, upon switching to this weapon, remove all debuffs from the Wanderer and smash the ground to form a barrier, dealing damage equal to 553.5% of attack, plus 2,445 to nearby enemies, suspending the targets. This is so good in PvP. This reduces their speed by 50% and stops them from dodging or jumping. The barrier lasts for 5 seconds and blocks projectiles. So super good, that Frost Barrier. I love using it on enemies that just love to run. Alright, so when it comes to weapon chips that I use on all of my weapons for this build, on Merill, since I love shields so much, I would love to have Merill's chipset. The 2-piece set reads, if HP is less than 30% after receiving damage, gain a shield equal to 20% of max HP for 10 seconds. Cooldown 90 seconds. The 4-piece set, increase Whirlwind's damage by 36% and restore HP equal to 30% of the damage dealt while Whirlwind is active. The maximum HP restored every 0.5 seconds cannot exceed 6% of attack. So that is super good. If you have her 4-piece set, you are so lucky. I am jealous of you if you have it. You can use that on her and she becomes super good. But for right now, the chipset that I'm using on her is going to be Zero's chipset, the 2-piece set. Upon using a discharge skill to switch to the current weapon, gain a shield equal to 150% of attack for 6 seconds. However, the 2-piece set of Zero's, or the 4-piece set of Zero's, is super good too, and it helps the entire team. The 4-piece sets, while the shield is active, you and your teammates deal 16% more damage, so that is really good. But the other 2-piece set that I run on Merill with this build is going to be a 2-piece Frigg. Increase frost attack by 8% for 10 seconds when switching between frost weapons. This set effect works in the offhand slot, but only the set with the high starting will take effect. And basically, I do this so I could, help me keep aggro, because if you have a super high attack, you're going to have more aggro on the boss, because the boss will try to fight the person that has the most attack. Over on my Saki, I am using a 2-piece Saki. It says, when Frost Resonance gets triggered, every 3 seconds deal Frost damage equal to 65% of Frost attack to enemies within a 10-meter radius and apply the Ice Frost effect. Inflict 5% slow effect for that lasts for 3.5 seconds. Freeze targets for 3 seconds after 3 stacks. Does not apply to bosses. And increase frost damage taken by the target by 5% for 18 seconds. This matrix effect is also active in the offhand slot, but only the set with the highest star rating will take effect. And if you have the 4-piece set, which is super good too, the 4-piece set says, attack the target 10 times to inflict a 12-second flash freeze mark. Flash freeze increases frost damage dealt to the marked target by 11%. This matrix effect is also active in the offhand slot, but only the set with the highest star rating will take effect. So that's really good for DPSing. The other 2-piece set that I run on my Saki is going to be just this, the 2-piece Shiro. Increase both damage and shatter to targets with more than 50% HP by 15%. And of course, the 4-piece on Shiro says, upon entering battle, gain 20% damage boost for 35 seconds. And then over on my Coco Ritter, this is a new acquisition to my arsenal. I have a 2-piece Lyra set. Use this weapon to increase all attack types by 13%. The lower the HP, the higher the healing received, which can be increased up to 100%. And then, of course, I have another 2-piece Zero set on my Coco Ritter, so I can receive a shield whenever I switch to my heals, because whenever I switch to the heals, that means I'm probably low, and I don't want to be hit when I switch to my healing weapon to give myself some heals back. So when it comes to Relic sets that I can suggest for this build, I only really use one, and that's going to be this one, Alternate Destiny and Kuan Shield, either Type 1 or Type 2, your choice. Alternate Destiny reads it's a defense type relic, so generate a pocket dimension for 8 seconds. Allied Wanderers gain immunity to hit stun effects in the dimension, and HP will not drop below 20% from any attacks. Cooldown 90 seconds. Leaving the dimension removes all buffs. Once you have spent 8 seconds in the dimension, you cannot be buffed by it for 45 seconds. I've got a couple different activations on mine. I have mine activated to 2 stars. The first one says, Allied Wanderers in the dimensions recover 15% HP 8 seconds later. And the second star, Allied units in the dimension gain 25% lifesteal, so that's the part that I really enjoy. 3 stars, Allied Wanderers in the dimension gain immunity to all control effects, which is super cool for tanking. 4 stars, increased frost damage by 2% even if not deployed. And then the 5th star, until the relic disappears, Allied Wanderers in the dimension double all lifesteal effects when HP drops to 40% or below. That is super good. So I've got the Coolant Shield Type 2, and this is a lot better than the Type 1. It says summon a Type 2 Coolant and generate a shield for 5 seconds, which disappears after 5 seconds or being struck once. Upon disappearing, the shield knocks back nearby enemies and deals damage equal to 100% of attack plus 50. After the shield is broken, increase damage by 20% for 10 seconds. For every 1 second the generated shield exists on the battlefield, gain 1 additional stack of Blessing once the shield ends is broken. Each Blessing stack will reduce damage by 2% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 5 times, cooldown 30 seconds. First advancement, grant 100 energy immediately upon use if HP is greater than 90%. If HP is less than 90%, immediately grant 50 energy, then 50 more energy once damage increase expires. Second one, increase the duration of damage boost to 12 seconds. Third one, every stack of Blessing additionally increases final damage by 1% for 12 seconds. The fourth, increase flame damage by 2%. And then the fifth one, when there are a full 5 stacks of Blessing, additionally increase final damage by 2.5% and reduce damage received by 5% for 12 seconds. Alright, so the gameplay that you're watching, I just first want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Imir, Savior, and Yuno. Whenever I put out the SOS in America 1's chat that I needed a 2 DPS and healer to make a video with, they answered right away and they came and it was great. They are super OP, so shout out to them. Thank you guys so much. They are really good. And shout out to your respective crews because you guys are really, really good. Alright, so whenever I was doing this, we fought 2 bosses. Basically, my entire idea was, my entire thing was, I wanted to tank a boss that was really strong, something that you can't two-man, something that you probably are going to need like a full team for. And normally people would probably 8-man these bosses, but these guys are so OP. Now what was really cool here is that I was able to keep the boss's attention pretty much the entire time. We fought Teoti or Teotai, I can't pronounce his name properly, and Zuyan. Zuyan was like the most fun to fight. Teoti was kind of problematic because he hits really, really hard, but thankfully I had a healing weapon on, and we had a dedicated healer that's job was just dedicated to keeping everybody's health up, so that was really good. And that's actually, honestly, probably the most fun that I could have in a game like Tower of Fantasy, is playing with people. Honestly, this is the reason why I like this game more than Genshin Impact, because I can do stuff like that. I can put it in SOS and say, hey, let's go fight a boss 4-man and have some fun doing it. I can play different roles, and I just really enjoy being a tank for these missions. I have health, I can fight the boss, and then DPS are doing their thing, and it's just so cool to know that my aggro is so high that the boss does nothing but look at me, and I can use my skills properly to keep myself alive and keep the attention on me. So basically what I was doing here in these matches, these fights that you're seeing, is I was just attacking. I was just fighting as normal, and every so often, whenever I see the boss was about to do some special attack, I would use my Saki and go into her silent flow to absorb the damage. You'll see that the word absorb that appears on the screen a couple of times. I'm just letting you know that I am absorbing the damage, and then I was getting, you know, some heals back for myself, and when my health was getting super low, or when I noticed that my teammates' health was getting super low, I would use my Coco Ritter. I really probably didn't need to use Coco Ritter since we had an extra healer there that was dedicated to keeping us alive. But hey, you know, this is how I feel whenever I like to be DPSing. I put myself in the position of a DPS, and it's just like I feel super secure when I know that there are just a lot of heals. Even when my health is already full, I like to know that there are still heals out there, so I don't have to worry about dying, because DPS is your paper thin. Your paper thin. You don't really have a lot of defense when you're a DPS. So that's why I just like to, whenever I'm healing or when I'm ever tanking, I like to be able to make my DPS feel like they're safe and they're secure. And that's a tank's job. A tank's job is to protect everybody from the boss, and the healer's job is to keep the tank and everybody else alive. So just using Saki's skills, using her silent flow, holding that attack button, holding the skill button down, and getting your health back every so often to keep you alive, just doing damage to the boss, keeping his attention. And that's honestly one of the most fun things to be in the game. And being a Frost tank right now, especially because my Frost DPS is so high, my Frost resonance is so high, my Frost attack is so high, my Frost weapons are super high advanced, more than my fire tanking. I enjoy Frost tanking more than I do fire tanking right now. I think the fire tanking is kind of like lackluster in the game because all of my fire tank weapons, with the exception of Huma is really good for the fire tank, but my lane is not so strong right now because I only have her at 0 advancements, and Huma maxed out pretty much. But just, I don't know, I really enjoy the Frost tanking. Now obviously if I wanted to get more aggro, it would be more like more tanky, I could use one of my other tank weapons. I could use the Saki, I could use Merill, and probably use something like Mimi or Huma or Lan that would help me tank a little bit more. But I think having a support weapon added on like Coco Ritter or Fiona even is a really good addition to this tanking team. All right, so that's it. That's it for the tank guide. Let me know what you think. If you want to see more guides like this, be sure to give the video a thumbs up. Let's try to get the video to like 30, 40, 50 likes. I really appreciate it. And if you have any suggestions down in the comments as far as tanking, just let me know, because this is a community effort. I would like to help the community be a better player in Tower of Fantasy and just have more fun playing Tower of Fantasy. I wish everybody could experience the joy that I feel whenever I am doing this. Like, I was actually having a lot of fun. Even though this was work for me because of YouTube, I was still enjoying the crap out of it because I got to be a tank, and it was fun. Alright guys, so that's going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace out.